So the Democratic National Committee has pulled its support for the Women's March. And many believe that it is because of co-sponsor Tamika Mallory not being willing to condemn Louis Farrakhan. And I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was her appearance on The View, in which Meghan McCain asked her to condemn Louis Farrakhan. She asked her repeatedly, would you condemn Louis Farrakhan as being anti-Semitic? And Tamika Mallory would not make an outright condemnation of Louis Farrakhan. A lot to say about this. Let me start by saying, number one, I don't support Louis Farrakhan. Never have, never will. For many reasons that don't fit into the normal group of things. Like there's a lot to not like about Louis Farrakhan, but you can't deny his role in the black community and the things that he's done, and people who can testify to the number of things he's done specifically to help them. Nevertheless, I'm not a fan, not a supporter, never have been, and I'll say it again, I never will be. But if you ask me to condemn him, specifically, if you are asking me to condemn him as some type of false equivalence with white supremacy, or in this case, in light of Steve King, Representative Steve King, and his actions declaring himself as a white nationalist, a white supremacist, people are reaching to bring up Louis Farrakhan as a way of saying, well, if you don't condemn him, we're not going to condemn Steve King. If you ask me to condemn him underneath those circumstances, we'll be sitting staring at each other forever, like the meme of Diddy and the guy from The Voice, like, or The Four. Like, you're never going to get me to condemn Louis Farrakhan as some type of false equivalence with white supremacy, because they are not the same. They never have been, and they never will be the same. Louis Farrakhan is a conservative reaction to white supremacy. And that is a very specific phrase. Every word that I just said has significant meaning. Louis Farrakhan is not liberal. He is not progressive. His politics are conservative. His politics embrace the patriarchy, just the black patriarchy. His politics embrace capitalism. His politics embrace so many things that we, particularly as black socialists, black progressives, we reject, vehemently reject, but still he is a reaction to white supremacy. He is a reaction. So to bring him up regularly, bring him up, is disingenuous at best, but it's a game. More specifically, it's a game to absolve any responsibility of the white community to reject their own racism in their community. Instead of just outright condemning Steve King, they use Louis Farrakhan as a way of saying, oh, well, we should, black people, you need to condemn him. Why? We don't have his politics. We don't share his ideological worldview. All we see is a black man in the black community who is doing what he can as a reaction to what white supremacy has done to the black community historically. I'm not going to condemn him as some type of game, some type of way of making you feel better as though you have some leverage over us. It's some false equivalence to say, oh, black people have racist, just like, yeah, people are prejudiced, but we don't have structured racism in that manner because we're not in positions of power to implement that system of black supremacy. So no, I don't expect Tamika Mallory to do this condemnation game. And you have to, the ramifications are going to follow, right? The DNC canceled. Well, who cares, right? Who cares if the DNC canceled? The Women's March shouldn't be a partisan event in the first place. It is not a cheap place for the Democratic Party to grandstand and to co-opt their movement, and they're better off. The Women's March is better off without the DNC. And I don't care how important the DNC is right now in terms of the resistance and fighting back against Donald Trump. They should not have been there in the first place. So whether or not, she should have, I know the question is about whether or not her personal relationship, Tamika Mallory's personal relationship with Louis Farrakhan, referring to him as the greatest of all time. That's her responsibility. She has to answer for those things. I don't like them. Never have. And again, I never will. But you will never find me jumping through the hoops of white supremacy, trying with this false equivalency hoops, trying to make him seem like he's equivalent to Steve King. First of all, he's not an elected representative. He doesn't represent tens of thousands of people in a district. He has no responsibility as a national leader, as some type of legislative leader, because he has not been elected. So they're not the same in any way that you cut it. He's not the same as Donald Trump, the president of the United States, who is the white supremacist in chief. He is not the same no matter how you cut it. And as much as I disagree with them, as much as I would have rather we have Malcolm X on the scene versus Louis Farrakhan on the scene, you'll never find me jumping through hoops to condemn him on behalf of people who are drawing a false equivalence with white supremacy when he in fact is a conservative reaction to white supremacy. What else did you expect the conservative vein of blackness to do in reaction to white supremacy in this country? So there you have it.